Hey guys, what's going on? It's Meshi with Path to Wellness with Meshi. Thank you so much for joining me for another video. In today's video, we're going to be chatting about eating styles, and more importantly, I'm going to be highlighting the differences between the paleogenic, the ketogenic, and the vegan eating style, and how you can kind of navigate through all of that. And what are some of the things that you should actually consider? And at the very end, I will also be sharing with you some resources that sort of help me along the way with my own wellness journey when it comes to figuring out what to eat and what suits my body the best. But I wanted to highlight some of the important elements that you need to know about all of them. So if you've ever been curious or you're just simply confused of what all of these eating styles are all about and you're just kind of tired of it, then this video is definitely going to be for you. And if you are brand new here, then welcome. I'm so glad that you are joining me for this video, and welcome to the tribe. We usually chat here about 2 to 3 times a week on this channel, and we talk about zero waste, about conscious living, about spiritual practices, and overall of how we can live a more meaningful and more impactful life without leaving a really negative impact on the planet. So if you're into all of that, I think you're going to love it here, and you can consider subscribing. But first, let's get right into the video. Okay, so when we're talking about different eating styles, I realize that it's an extremely emotional topic that can really bring up so many mixed emotions that you might not actually know sort of what to do with. So I thought that I would not only highlight the nutritional profile of all of these eating styles, which I think is important. We're going to definitely feed your left brain. So if you're more analytical and you really just wanted to kind of look at the facts, I will have the information right next to me so you can kind of take a look at what you're signing up for with each eating style. Let's talk about paleogenic eating style first. So the paleogenic eating style, there isn't like a true paleo eating style. And the reason for that is because our climate is different. So the entire format is set up like this. You're eating meats and fish and shellfish, and you're eating it in its original form, and it's like you're eating wild animals if you're choosing to, but you're eating it like the way, basically the idea behind the paleogenic eating style is that you're eating really similar to how your ancestors used to eat. And so you're eating more wild animals, and you're eating more meat and more wild caught fish. And then you're also adding some fruits, some berries, some vegetables, but you're completely cutting out grains. So there are no grains, no legumes added to this diet, to this eating style. And there is sort of a debate as to where your fruits and veggies are going to be coming from. Some of them consider tropical fruits, some of them don't, some of them are more Antarctic. So it just really depends on who you ask. And so therefore, because there's a little bit of a debate, there isn't like one true paleogenic diet. The pros are that you're eating ideally more local, and you're eating more with seasons, and you're looking at food in its wholest form. So you're not eating any processed food. You're basically preparing all of your meals from scratch, and you're keeping all the within the vegetables, within the fruits, you're keeping all of the enzymes live. So there you go. In that regard, it's great. And the other big benefit is that you're cutting out grains. So a lot of people tend to be more sensitive to gluten and to more grain products. And if that's you, then this eating style might be for you. Now, what's sort of the problem with the paleogenic diet? Why doesn't everybody eat that way? Well, we don't eat that way because it's not for everyone, especially if you're finding that you have more hormonal issues. If you're a female, eating an overload of meat and you're cutting your carb consumption down to the bare minimum might actually have negative impacts. You're not only changing the chemistry where you're overloading your body with testosterone, and within the paleogenic diet, there isn't really much chat about having meat that are organic, hormone-free, which I think really needs to be addressed, because the quality of meat that you can get through factory farming versus the quality of meat that you would be buying through a local farmer are night and day, and their nutritional picture would look completely different, and your body would absorb it differently too. So you're not taking in any antibiotics, you're not taking in any hormones and things like that, which will also not impact negatively your thyroid and your adrenal gland, and overloading your kidneys and your liver as well. So you want to kind of keep those things in mind. Now, so this would be an ideal diet for those of you that are I kind of look at this like sort of like a transitional phase, where you are sort of moving away from your Western diet, your traditional Western diet with your, think like meat and potatoes and tons of processed food. Paleogenic diet would be an ideal step. Next, let's talk about the ketogenic diet. You might heard all the hype of how it helps. You might have heard that it helps cure cancer patients, and it helps, people with diabetes, and it helps like manage healthy blood sugar levels. Of course, we're going to be talking about the weight loss, which it seems to be all the hype. So of course it's gaining a ton of traction and a ton of attention. And it seems like, again, another new phase. Now, I have personally tried the ketogenic diet for about 9 months, and this was maybe about 3 years ago before it was hyped up to the level that it was. I will be adding in the resources in the show notes someone that you should be following. It's Leanne Vogel. She has a channel called The Healthful Pursuit. It's kind of a tongue twister. But if you follow her, she's a holistic nutritionist here in Canada, and she has written a couple of really informative books about the ketogenic diet. I have learned through her the importance of intermittent fasting. I learned through her the importance of understanding the different types of different qualities of carbohydrates and how things are being absorbed in your body. She has actually struggled quite a bit with hormonal imbalances, which was sort of eye-opening to see the journey that she went through. And also it just allowed me to personally connect to really like how to really tune into my own body. And so I think that if you are on a journey where you have tried the paleogenic diet and it's not really working for you, ketogenic diet might be up your alley, depending on how clean your current diet is and how much you're purchasing like fresh vegetables and fresh produce and things like that, or how much you're cooking your own meals. This might be the next ideal transitional step for you. Now, here's the thing. For a lot of people, so basically the idea behind the ketogenic diet is that you reduce your carb consumption to the bare minimum, anywhere between about 5% to about 20% of your overall caloric intake per day. It would be cut down to about 20% of that would be coming from carbohydrates. The rest, about 60 to 75%, would be coming from fat, and then about 20 to 25% can come from protein. So what's wrong with all of this picture? Why are we harping on the ketogenic diet? We're harping on the ketogenic diet. We're not really harping on it. With the ketogenic diet, you have to understand that most people are actually burning, currently you might be burning glucose, or you might be burning carbs for your immediate fuel. It is possible for your body to dip into the fat burning state, but first you would need to actually use up your glucose levels within your blood storage levels in order for you to potentially dip into into your fat storage, so that you start burning fat for fuel. So, and your body can produce ketones. Do not mix up ketones with ketoacidosis, which is a condition. It's a completely different thing. But when you're burning ketones, it's a cleaner energy, because for you to be able to burn fat, you need more calories to burn fat, versus when you're burning glucose. I will again just insert the information sheet here so you can kind of take a look at what I'm talking about without getting too sciencey. Now, so what's wrong with this? There isn't really anything wrong with the ketogenic diet, but it is an absolute process for you to go from eating a standard American diet in order for you to make a transition into the ketogenic diet. And even within the ketogenic diet, there are many different layers depending on your activity level, depending if you are female or not, and depending on really what your overall wellness goals are. You can sort of customize it of like the percentages of fat that you're consuming and the percentages of carbohydrates that you're consuming so that it sort of suits your needs. Personally, if you are like me, you're not very patient, you jump right into a new diet because it just seems to align, and then you just go for it full throttle, which is what I ended up doing. And without really understanding how my body actually functions, for me to transition into burning fat for fuel, it took me about close to a week. And for a little bit, for about 3 to 4 days, I actually felt horrible. I felt horrible because I didn't understand that I needed to hydrate appropriately. I needed to carb up continuously in order for my body to switch into the fat burning mode. So just keep a lot of those things in mind. Again, I think that you need to kind of do your own research and see a couple of things. You need to see, when you're looking at the meals that are created with the ketogenic diet, do you find them inspiring? Does that actually spark something in you? Or do you just kind of find them like, okay, some new recipes, cool, let's move on. For me, it took me about 9 to 10 months until I went from the ketogenic diet to the plant-based diet, which is my third eating style that I wanted to really talk about. And I found that that's sort of what resonates the most with me at the moment. Now, will I stay in the plant-based world forever? I don't know, but here's what you need to know about the plant-based diet. The plant-based diet primarily consists of not eating any animal fat or any animal products. So that would include dairy, that would include your cheese, your milk, your yogurt, all of that. It would also include no animal protein and no animal products at all. So that would also include things like honey. Now, a lot of these things for me has been an absolute transition. And if you have been, depending on where you're from, but if your cultural upbringing has involved a lot of smoked meat and smoked cheeses and a lot of animal products, it sort of becomes a transitional thing for you to get to a point where you're no longer consuming animal products. And I say that because it brings up a lot of emotion, and after a while, I just sort of got to a point where when we're talking about meat, I'm completely indifferent to it. But I also feel that when somebody says, hey, it's pulled pork, I don't think of pulled pork like the delicious meal. I think of like a little animal that we basically butchered for us to be able to consume that as finger foods. So I think that it's a transitional thing, and a lot of it, what most people are not really addressing when it comes to the plant-based eating style, is that it has a cleansing effect because you're not taking in you're not taking in any animal products. That also means that you're not taking in that energy of that animal. So a lot of the times, like the way that you might end up feeling on a plant-based diet is you might feel a lot lighter, you might have more energy. Now that we've sort of reviewed the different eating styles, you might be sitting there like, okay, I think I'm starting to sort of understand the idea behind each of the eating styles and how it can benefit me. But where do I really start? So I think that is such a personal question, whether you're a female or a male, or whether you have issues with hormones. The big things that I really wanted you to walk away with is that it's not one eating style that will fit you for the rest of your life. Maybe it will, but I think that you need to give yourself that freedom, that emotional freedom for sure, where you give yourself the opportunity to discover really what works for you. And it's going to be individual for each of us, because the type of nutritional support that you will need might not be the exact same thing as the type of nutritional support that I need. Your activity level may change, and the way that you handle stress, the way that you manage your sleep, all of those things will really have an impact on how your body is handling nutritional deficiencies or what you truly need to begin with. So I would love it if we would get to a point with all of these different eating styles where you gather the information, you understand the nutritional profile, and then you try them out, because that's ultimately the best way really for you to see what works best for you. I think that you should also work with a professional, whether you see a naturopathic doctor or an Ayurvedic practitioner, or you see your doctor. Depending on your doctor, I think that can make a big difference. Like, they can order blood tests so that you can make sure that you're not going to be deficient in certain vitamins and minerals that are so essential for your body to function optimally. So ultimately, is there like a one straight answer? No, I really don't think that there is. And I think that also you might transition in and out of different eating styles as time goes on, because your nutritional needs change and evolve. Whether you're, planning on being pregnant or you're lactating, whatever the case may be, just give yourself that emotional freedom to really do your own research and see what aligns for you. And also make sure that you take some time to tune in of which eating style are you more naturally drawn to. This is a big element of really figuring out what works for you, because you can look at all the clinical research, you can look at all of the information outlined, and then you sort of forget, or you don't tune in of not only what works intuitively best for you, but then which of these eating styles will also have the biggest impact on your health, and which one of these eating styles will leave the least amount of impact on our planet. So when you're looking at how food is processed, you might be kind of going down the rabbit hole of this. And one of the books that I really wanted to highlight today is called, I'm going to highlight one of the books that have really helped me open up my eyes about different eating styles, and then also their impact on our planet, about how meat is being manufactured, but also the livestock, and how, whenever your food has to travel a longer time, how that really impacts our environment and the quality of air, the water quality, and all of those things. Well, it might not make a big impact in your life in this lifetime, but it will make a big impact over the next few generations, if not more. So, ultimately, if you do end up caring about, the environmental impact of your personal choices, then this becomes more of a conversation of not so much which eating style will allow you to lose the most amount of weight, but which eating style becomes the more sustainable for you personally, that brings the most optimal health and takes the least amount of environmental impact. And if you're looking at any of the zero waste movements, I think that they all sort of work hand in hand. But my hope is that we can bring unbiased information to you in a way where you become educated, or at least we just open up the door for you to start asking better questions. Because when you start asking better questions, your filtration system becomes better. You start filtering all of this information through a different lens. So instead of looking at an eating style like what allows you to lose the most amount of weight, or which one is the most Instagrammable one, you're really going to start looking at eating styles like what makes the biggest impact on my health, which one is the most sustainable, what is available to me locally, and that will change to all of you depending on where you live, and which one leaves the least amount of impact on the world if I consume that way. And is it sustainable? And if it's not sustainable over the long term because there's some potential risks, or I may become deficient in certain vitamins and minerals, or whatever the case may be, then what can I do to sort of offset that? So I'm hoping that this gave you a little bit of an insight of the different eating styles, but my big hope is that you will actually start viewing your food through a different lens. It makes me so sad when our culture is placing such a high importance on how we look instead of how content and how fulfilled we feel emotionally, spiritually, physically, and as human beings. And the idea is for us to fuel us so that we can do the things that we want to do, not so that it's not about vanity. And I'm hoping that this video has helped you just look through a different set of lens and maybe ask some different questions when it comes to eating styles. I would love to hear from you guys. Now that we've done this long rant, I would love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments below, which eating style have you tried and which one resonates with you the most and why. Currently, I am definitely on my way into transitioning into a fully vegan eating style, because it's a process for me, so I'm not in a rush. But I also know that the more I'm becoming educated, the easier this transition becomes. And also where I live here in Canada, it's becoming a lot more accessible to really create healthier swaps for alternatives to meat and alternatives to cheese and alternatives to dairy. And I feel like this is such an exciting time, because then more and more consumers are becoming a lot more conscious of what they are putting in their body and the environmental impact that it creates. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and just keep seeking, you guys, because you're so much more powerful than you think. And I will see you again in my next video. Bye.